What is up, you guys? Welcome back to another edition of the podcast. My name is Ramon, and this is Dad's podcast project. And today, I wanted to talk about the ER. We're no stranger to the ER in this family. We've had plenty of ER visits with our children, or really with our son. Our daughter, I think, has had maybe one or two ER visits since being here. And tonight, yet again, we find ourselves having to make another ER visit. Now, I get home from work and my wife tells me not to alarm you, but your son has something to tell you. So I'm trying to prepare myself because I just got through the door and I go up to him like, "Hey, how's it going, bud? What's up? You have something you want to tell me?" And, No, Dad, nothing. How about your day? How was your day? It was all right. That's as far as I got. So my wife then comes and tells me he put a piece of string up his nose. It was a small piece, maybe about a 1/4 inch, 3/8 of an inch. I'm not sure the metric equivalent for those of you who are on the metric system. We'll just say 3 millimeters. And it was just a tiny piece of string that comes on your clothing. Now, my wife said that she had seen it in his nostril when she was trying to look to then fish it out, but he then sniffed and the string was then gone. So we thought to ourselves, maybe this is nothing. Maybe this is something that'll pass. We won't really have to worry. However, we look to Google, we look online, and we do our due diligence. We can't just, I guess, leave it as is. We can't just say, well, maybe it'll be okay. We don't really know that. So my wife is looking it up. She's asking me, do we know any nurses? Do we know anybody that works in the hospital? And to be honest with you, I know people that work in the hospital, but they're not like RNs. They're not like doctors. It's just people who are on the clerical side of things. So we really didn't have anybody to reach out to. If you know someone that you can reach out to, sometimes that saves you a little bit more time than calling the nurse line or the doctor hotline, or maybe it's not a doctor hotline, but calling some form of hotline or line at the hospital in order to get advice. Now, we've called so many times in the past. I already know what the answer is going to be. They're never going to tell you, it'll be fine, and then just leave it at that. If you call in, chances are they're going to tell you, you need to come in. They can't just, I guess, send you on your merry way just off of what they hear. They need to check it out for themselves. So my wife is like, okay, looks like we're going to the ER. I'm like, all right, well, let's get your shoes, let's get your sweater. And he's pretty much just got to go with my wife. I'm home with the daughter. She's already asleep by now. She's a very easy baby to put to sleep. I mean, my son, he still fights bedtime. My daughter, when she's tired, she's ready for bed. So, but that's neither here nor there. So my wife has taken him to the ER. She's been there for the past couple of hours, and I get a text back. They say it's nothing. Thank you for it not being anything, because that would have really sucked. They had told us that there was a potential for this string to then make its way in his sleep to his lungs, which then could have caused either irritation or potential for problems. So we didn't want that. It's almost bedtime, and chances are it's not a good idea. So my wife, she and I both made the decision that it would be the best just to have him go to the ER. Make sure we check all our boxes and that we can sleep soundly knowing that there have been professionals that are checking him out. Now, it's a little bit more nerve-wracking because of what's going on. We don't want to be at the hospital because there is the coronavirus that is still out there. Granted, businesses are starting to open up. Things are starting to change, but that doesn't dismiss the fact that the coronavirus is still probably located most heavily in a hospital, an emergency room to be specific. So we really didn't want to be there, but we had to. There's nothing that we could do. We didn't want to pass the buck. We didn't want to just brush this under the rug and take a chance. So one ER visit down, and hopefully he sleeps soundly. Hopefully it just passes. The doctor said he probably just swallowed it after it went in his nose and he sniffed. It probably then went into his esophagus and he then swallowed it. So that was a big relief. Man, if you're watching the YouTube video, we are in a brighter area. I put in a little bit more lighting in here, so hopefully it looks a little bit better. And yeah, so today I wanted to talk about kind of switching gears. I know that there's been a lot of tragedy in the news. However, there's been another story that has sort of resonated with me a little bit more so, in the sense that as a parent, when I hear stories like this, it really makes me think like, gosh, what the heck? What the heck is going on? I want to talk to you guys about Myka Stauffer. Now, for those of you who don't know, this is a woman who is on YouTube, has a pretty sizable YouTube channel on her own. Her husband has his own sizable YouTube channel, and then they had a family channel together. Now, there are much more in-depth videos that go into detail about their background that will play you audio of everything that I'm about to talk about. But I really just want to give my opinion on the story and how I'm feeling about it. So this is a family that decided to go the adoption route. They've had 3 biological children of their own, and they decided, we want to adopt. That's awesome. There are plenty of children out there who could use a loving home and a loving family. Now, what makes this a story and what makes this something that I want to talk about is the fact that this family has decided to rehome this child. Now, I didn't even know what rehoming was, but apparently when things don't work out, you then find, or the adoption agency then finds, a new family for this child to live with. Now, why would they want to do this? It seemed, at least in the videos, that they were passionate about adopting, that they wanted this more than anything. They wanted a new addition to their family. Well, the adoption route that they went, knowingly, mind you, was that of a special needs child. This was going to be a child who maybe had a mental disability, who maybe had some medical condition or potential for further treatments. They were going to be a child who needs special care. And that you have to tip your hat to a parent who knowingly goes into this. Because when you have children on your own, like my wife and I, it is a shot in the dark. We had no idea how our children were going to turn out once they were born. The whole 10 fingers, 10 toes, if that's the minimum that you hope for, I mean, great. But there are so many things that can happen in just the child growing process through the, the gestational period, that so many things can go awry. And so when you have a child that is just born and is breathing and is crying and is 10 fingers, 10 toes, that is awesome. So for a family to then decide that they want a child who is going to need extra care because they're special needs, that's a lot to ask for a family. That comes with its own set of challenges. And for a family to step up and say, this is what we want, this is what we know we're getting ourselves into, that's awesome. I think that that's great. Now, before I get really, really into how I feel about this, I think that one of the things that I would like to preface is the fact that once you become a parent, you'll soon realize very quickly, everybody, parents, non-parents, grandparents, your buddy from high school, everybody is going to have an opinion on how you should raise your children. I'm here to tell you, no one knows what they're talking about. Children don't just come with a guidebook. People are launching fireworks still. Children don't come with a guidebook explaining in detail everything that you need to do for them, exactly how you're supposed to raise them. It's up to you to figure it out on your own. Everybody will tell you what to do. And if you can just take it as maybe advice, great. But some people push a little too hard with that. And they want to say, no, this is how you should do it. I don't think you should listen to that. I'm not here to tell you how to parent. I would hope that when you listen to these podcasts, you take everything I say with a grain of salt and just know that I'm conveying my experiences, because it's through that I think we can take little tidbits from each other and learn something to help us grow, to help us improve upon ourselves. I'm not here to tell you this is right, this is wrong. So in the case of this family, I think that what they had done, it really sucks for this kid, because they knew this going into it. And the reason I think that there is so much backlash is because of the fact that they went into it knowing what they were getting themselves into. And when it got a little too tough, well, I shouldn't say a little too tough, because parenting, it gets really tough sometimes. But with your kids, you can't give up. I can't just say, you know what, I quit. Maybe there are some parents who do, but really, you can't. And so I think that in this aspect, it's a little bit different, because the child was adopted. It's not biological. It was through an adoption agency, so maybe there was, like, as cold as it may sound, a return policy. But I think that the family might be feeling like there's a lot of pressure on them, and rightly so. I grew up knowing an individual who could not have children. They went through their own medical condition that, after all was said and done, unfortunately left them with the inability to have children of their own. Now they and their husband wanted to go the adoption route, because that was the only route that they had that was the only hand that life had served them. So because of that, I learned the whole adoption process is not easy. It seems like a bunch of up and downs. And you can get a child, the child can be taken, you're denied. There's all these requirements. And so for a family to have 3 biological children of their own, then go out and adopt a child, also with the help of their subscribers or their fan base, these individuals then chipped in to help out with the adoption fees. Some people, they don't have that luxury. They have to go it at their own. They can't even have children of their own. And they're desperate to try to get a child to then have a family. And so my wife and I were talking about this. It must be a real kick in the pants for families like that to see somebody just rehome a child, just say, you know what, it was a little bit too difficult, and this child just didn't fit with us. Maybe they'll fit somewhere else. And really just, unfortunately, it sounded as if they were really brushing this problem or sweeping it under the rug. Because for the longest time, at least to my knowledge, they were not conveying this information to their fans. They were hiding the fact that this child was no longer in their lives from their social media. So they really went about it in kind of a shady way. So, rightly so, all of the backlash. My opinion on it, and again, not telling people how to go about doing things, but when a family comes out publicly and is saying that they're ready for anything, they know they're going to adopt a special needs child. They've already ran through all of the different scenarios that they could go through with this child, and then decide that, you know what, it really was a lot tougher than we thought. It doesn't look good, and they probably shouldn't have did it to begin with. I think that the idea of adoption, it sounds great for some, But realistically, I think you got to do your research. The little one's tossing right now. I think she'll stay asleep. But I think that adoption in itself it's a selfless, is it selfless? Selfless the right word? I think it's a selfless act in the sense that you're really going above and beyond to do a solid for somebody else in this world who may not have the opportunities that, depending on the country that they're coming from, the families that they're born into, the circumstances that they're born under, you might really be providing them with a much better life. And I think it's a huge disservice to then up and just tuck tail and turn the other way. There's a lot, again, that goes into this story, a lot that I had done my own research on, and I encourage you guys, look it up for yourself if you're interested on this family. Myka Stauffer, who was rehoming her child, and there was a lot that was said in videos that were then taken down, just really, that are really contradicted by their actions. And I'm curious to see what's going to happen. I mean, nobody wants to see somebody, say, lose their livelihood if they're making a living off of YouTube. No one wants to see anybody lose their livelihood over mistakes or poor decisions. However, it's one of the reasons why I don't put my family out there on social media. There are things that I feel should remain private. I think that at least for a lot of these families, a lot of these like influencer families with the kids and they're all matching clothes and everything's like just picturesque. For a lot of parents out there, I think that you realize that they might be the exception, not the rule, and they really might be faking the funk a lot more than they're letting on to be. Because at least in my experience, my wife and I agree, we could not be a social media family. Our kids are wild. They march to the beat of their own drum. We're not telling them what to do. We're merely the bumpers on the side of a bowling lane, trying to keep them on the straight and narrow. And I have no problem with that. I think that that's awesome. My kids have a wealth of personality. But then to try to fit them into some mold, it's picture time. We need to pose for this post. We need to dress alike for this thing. We're not doing that. It's tough enough just getting dressed to get my son to go to the ER. It's not going to happen. And nor is it something that I would want to pursue with my family. I think that there are certain things that I enjoy that it's for me. It's for me and my wife and my kids. It's the time that we spend together that's private to us. Putting that out there for the world, it's none of the world's business. It's none of your business. It's nobody's business. This is our home. This is our family. So I think that when you add that element into this whole story that was happening, it lends itself to maybe the potential for something like this to happen. Who knows? I don't know. It was something that definitely, like, I was talking with my buddy at work and he's like, I approached him like, did you hear what happened about this kid and his family and his adopted? And he, right off the bat, he's like, did they kill this kid? I'm like, no, you got to get your head out of the news, man. Like, the world is a dark and cold place, but no, that's not what happened. They rehomed him. It's like, what's that? Oh, it just didn't work out. So they put him with another family. It's like, so like they returned him? Like, yes, they're kind of like that. I mean, it, even with the bare minimum explanation, it doesn't really sound good. But again, this is the decision that they decided on. It wasn't working out for them. Maybe this kid was a little bit too much a handful. There's too many variables that we don't know about, because when you only display, say, the positive aspects of your family, it's hard when something difficult happens to then try to explain it because you're picturesque. You're the model of perfection. So with that being said, I don't know if you guys put your families out there on social media. I would be curious. I mean, not that I'm going to be looking or anything like that. It's just why? Why do you put your family on social media, like your children, or do you take pictures like that? Do you want to be a social media family? Is that something that you're looking to pursue? Not that there's anything really wrong with it. It's just not for me. If it's your thing, if your kids are totally on board with that, then by all means, it works for you. Doesn't work for me, and it's not something that I'm really into, but again, different strokes, right? So with that being said, I want to thank you guys for taking the time to listen to this podcast. Thank you for just, I guess, just listening. If you made it to the end, be sure to leave a thumbs up. Subscribe if you enjoy this type of content. I'm just including videos now with the podcast. So yeah, till next time, you guys. See ya.